Hi, and welcome to another episode of Wine and Wisdom. I'm Thomas Hoang, and you're listening to the TL podcast, where knowledge is shared and no one takes themselves too seriously.
There we go.
Is it live now?
We are live. We are live.
You're live on your timeline.
Perfect. How's everyone going?
Amazing.
So, Lou,
Very good.
good hand.
Yeah.
It's your hand. What happened?
Yes. So I had myself a little surgery yesterday. I'm actually getting a bit more movement. I was a bit concerned yesterday. You know that you guys may or may not have experienced, but when you have children, they give you an epidural if you really need it, and it basically paralyzes you. They did the same thing with my arm yesterday. Anyway, but I'm on the mend. I had a cyst removed from my bone and a bone graft in its place, and I'm feeling much better. Just a bit sore. I'll be in this cast for a couple of months perhaps, but yeah, a little bit of rehab and I'll be back on the horse, as they say.
You are left-handed, right? You're right-handed, right, Lou? So you are right.
I am right-handed.
Okay, so that's good.
I can type, text, and answer my phone and do everything still. I can drive because my car now is an automatic. So
Sign contracts, agency agreements, that's what you need to worry about.
That's it. And I can drink wine. I can
Cam, you're looking a bit skinny, mate. What's going on?
Trick photography. I was about to say, mate, you'd be able to advise Lou on. I was about to say you'd be able to advise Lou on wrist injuries, wouldn't you, mate?
Here we go. Here we go.
Oh dear.
You're talking about when I'm trimming my bonsais? Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I was talking about, mate. Yeah, it's very labour intensive.
He did say actually when we got on, he was a bit hangry. I said, "What's up?" And he said, "I think I'm just hangry." So you on a diet or something, Cam?
No, I've just been busy and didn't eat, so I need to. I've just eaten, so I should kick in about half an hour. I'll be all right. Until then, I'm pissed off. So.
Okay.
Apparently, it's a medical condition. The chemicals in your brain go haywire. So there is angry. Actually, is true. Anyway, that's good.
So let's start with the wine then. Lou, first.
So I got what I could find in my cupboard.
Can we start with Lou dodging the wine competition? Because the message said in WhatsApp, I'm getting surgery the day after, so I can't drink. Not I'm having surgery the day before and I can drink, which would be why we cancel the competition. So I think you lose by default. I think the competition's back on and you lose.
I am having surgery on Wednesday in Newcastle. There you go, boys, right there. I'm having surgery in Newcastle.
You won't be able to drink. Does it say somewhere there you won't be able to drink?
It does. It says.
Yeah. And what are you doing right now?
I need an exemption from wine comp. I have a surgery on Wednesday in Newcastle. It will depend on how I come out, but I'll be in the pod either way. Is exactly what I said.
What have you got there?
What am I drinking? Exactly.
Coloured water.
No, King of Clubs 2020 Cab Merlot.
Just proving my point.
What was in the cupboard? Because I can't drive yet.
Well, what's
you're in Newcastle, they would have had more bottle shops for you to choose from as well, because we always hear you whinging about there's not enough to choose from in port. So you would have more of a selection as well.
I did a flying trip down and
Point is, I won the last one. She's trying to ruin my momentum and dodge a loss.
Cut me some slack. Jesus. Anyway, what are you drinking?
Mine is Chateau Tanunda. It's probably a heritage place now in Barossa. You should go. It looks amazing, especially on the website. But it's it's like a chateau that this family's bought, and they've totally renovated, and they have vines that are up to 100 years old. I think the property is 130 years old.
Wow.
And so I'm having a 2019 Shiraz. We'll see.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Going for an old favourite, Scarborough, Hunter Valley Chardonnay. It's a 2020. Yeah, Good drop.
You've done a lot of research, man.
Absolutely.
Well, because Lou dogged it, so I went straight for the middle shelf of Liquorland and spent $18 on.
Oh, come on.
What does it say? Lent.
Wenty.
It's a Californian Chardonnay, so it's quite
Okay.
nice. But I wasn't going to waste. it.
So you've done better than
Yeah,
them.
the winery is beautiful on the internet.
Did we say that the competition is back on?
Next week.
No, we said Lou loses by default.
Oh.
Actually, why don't we just quickly
Lou says, I'm not drinking, and then comes with the most filled red wine glass I've ever seen. Hold up your glass again. You've tipped half a bottle in it.
I'm operating one-handed, and I poured it before we started in case I knocked
Just
the
get a
entire
straw,
bottle.
Lou. Just
You
get a
usually
straw.
pour a bottle of 2 hands, do you?
No, I usually hold in one, and the glass in one and the bottle in the other. So, geez, just
Cheers, guys.
Yes.
Cheers.
$18. Oh,
$18. Does it taste like $18?
after 3 sips, it doesn't matter.
All right. Are we talking
How
about
good
good
that,
ones or
Yeah, well, I want to talk about your doppelganger, your lookalike, Chris, that resigned yesterday.
Who's
Yeah.
Daniel Andrews?
He's got the same hair. Hey,
You just need a pair of.
is he not the worst? Is he not the worst premier? Oh, he's the worst I've seen.
Actually, if you put Cam's glasses, you'd go pretty close, I reckon.
Not that I know the bloke personally or anything about politics, but I reckon he's got to be the worst that I've seen. He was the worst during COVID, wasn't he?
oh,
Oh yeah, during COVID,
Terrible.
yeah. Shocking. And then the Olympic, what is it, the Commonwealth Games or whatever it is, he's just canned and God knows what. Yeah. Oh
Just
Well,
well.
half
since
of it to
it's
China.
stepped in.
Sorry?
And Jacinta stepped in. The lady's taken his space, his place.
Mm.
She's going to announce a cabinet next week, I reckon, she said. But anyway, I don't get in politics. Don't understand it.
No go zone.
Well, you can tell that was insightful. That was good. Well done, guys. Good job.
Yeah, good on.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Quality television we're producing right now.
You started the topic.
I threw it out.
Any
there.
other news?
Oh, I heard in this morning inflation's gone back up. So where that takes us or leads us is another story. But
Well, in turn, if the inflation goes up and it continues to climb, they've got no option then other than to increase the interest rates. And
yeah,
it's a hand-in-hand process.
yeah.
And they saw inflation level out for a little while, and that's why they've missed a couple of increases. And they thought they had it under control. So obviously, I hope this is just a blip in the economy. But it doesn't. If it continues, I suppose we're going to get a couple more interest rate rises to pull that back under control.
Yeah.
Then we might have a bit more of an effect on the market. I don't know about you guys, but stock's hard, but buyers are everywhere.
Yeah. Plenty of inquiry. Lots more buyers than we had 6 months ago. Absolutely.
Yeah. And they're hot to trot. They're ready to go. They're wanting to secure something. So the market's strong. So if you're selling, problem is the people have got, there's not as much stock for them to choose from on the other side of that. If they're moving into state, maybe that's a different thing. They'll, able to gain, capitalize on their sale here and buy something, whether it's the sunny northern Florida of Australia called Queensland, or where they go. But it's a strong market.
We're saying the opposite with stock. I mean, you want to be ready because there's 4 million properties coming on the market.
Yeah.
4
Okay.
million. So, but all they've got to do is talk about raising interest rates again, and
That'll change.
Slow people down, you reckon? Yeah, I'm not seeing the stock levels increase very much in our area, but I've heard some areas are.
walk
Anyway,
outside, mate.
Yeah.
say that again.
I said, walk outside, have a look around.
Yeah. Not seeing it. Not seeing it, Sutherland.
I think we're all in a little bit of a different market. Like, our office in Foster, I mean, look, I know that's an area where the retirees tend to flock, and, we can put a property on in excess of $1 million and sell it in the same week, where we put something on in that price in Port Macquarie, it's taking 2 or 3 months to sell it. it's such a strange, and we're an hour apart, such a strange market, like difference in markets, and then you're saying, Cam, you've got stock everywhere. Chris, you're saying you've got none. We've got a steady stream, but yeah, it's just the difference of an hour, a difference what an hour can make,
Different microclimates. But
yeah, exactly.
all good. All right.
You're very quiet. Yeah.
I'm listening. Very interested.
You look interested.
I am.
Thanks for the input. So today's topic is, why do we do wine and wisdom? Oh, it's actually it's a very good topic.
It is.
Thought it was
simple but deep.
Yeah. I wrote one word, it was wine. No, it was an interesting question. Does someone go first? That's not me.
Okay, I'll go first. I think when you guys asked me to get on and do something like this, I always when you guys first started, I was quite interested in what you were doing, and I thought, geez, that would be good to be a part of that or something like that. I've always valued learning, but I think the difference for me was my life, sort of the path that I took. I had a lot of life experience as I got older, but not necessarily a lot of practical knowledge, I suppose. And since that path I took, I think there's been a desire just to learn and grow from a young age, and every opportunity that I could find to do that, I jumped at, even as scary as it was, so I think now it's something that I'm quite used to, and I enjoy doing it, and I get lots from it. But initially it was scary because you're putting yourself out there to speak your mind and be judged, and it came with a bit of anxiety, but that also comes with the opportunity of courage and vulnerability, I suppose. So I do it for that. That's one of the reasons, probably three in there, but one. What about you guys?
So Cam, you and TL were the sort of founding fathers, for want of a better word. You guys were the forerunners, the crusaders, the trailblazers. So I ask you at the beginning, right? Because I've got my sort of take on it when I come in, 3-4 weeks afterwards. But from the onset for you two, and this is a thought that I had in my head initially, why did you guys want to do it?
Yeah.
One. I think, no, so the idea came about because you guys have all sat in a room with TL and talked quite a few times about how Einstein used to have a group of people that he'd sit around and drink wine with and talk philosophy. And whenever it was would have been 2 weeks before we did the first podcast. He was starting the TL podcast, and me being the ego-driven human that I am, I'd always wanted to be on TV and do a podcast myself. And I said to him, I think we're in the restaurant at Castle Hill, I said, here's an idea you can steal for free because I can't execute it. You always wanted your Einstein group. You do a podcast, you call it Wine and Wisdom, you sit around and drink wine and you talk philosophy. So that was, and then 3 days later, he rings me and says, we start next Thursday.
Yeah.
We did the first one, but what people don't know is the first one went for 3 hours and about 4 bottles of wine. And someone, I don't know who, because he gets it right every week on Facebook, forgot to hit record. And we got to the end of it, couldn't put a sentence together and hadn't recorded a thing. So we backed up the next day. And safe to say the first version that actually came out was a lot flatter than the first version we did because I didn't want to drink, nothing left. But I think the idea was it was initially that. It was to talk philosophically and to have debate and to talk. You don't get to have the conversations we were having early doors. You don't get to have those in your daily life very often, especially with the life we lead. So it was an opportunity to do that. And clearly Thomas didn't like anything that was coming out of my mouth because it only took a week or two for Chris to be brought into So
I was feeling lonely, Chris.
You know, Cam, it's funny you bring up about it's not often we sit around and we discuss topics in detail or even give ourselves a bit of time set aside to actually, and I don't know what to call it other than deep think, really concentrate on an issue or a topic and really dissect that down to our actual belief on that. And we've done so many. I mean, I remember the Christmas one for me was fantastic. I remember dissecting, what does Christmas mean to us? And it's just that ability to stop, pause, and just focus on that topic and really understand what we personally think about that topic, and then share that with 4 people that you value. I think for me is a fantastic thing. This for me is a selfish indulgence, wine and wisdom. I believe I really enjoy it. So
Yeah.
that's how I do it. It's a selfish indulgence. So
Yeah. That's good.
yeah,
I think that Cam said it very well. But Socrates used to say, he had a line that says, an unexamined life, a life that you don't examine is not a life worth living. That we live in a society, and especially the people in sales, it's running constantly. It's trying to put sales and then do this, and then tomorrow it's another grind, and you keep on going. One day you turn around and you're sick. One day you turn around and you're gone. One day you turn around, you can't do that anymore. And so what happened is people are not taking the time to just have a stop, have a bit of a breather to look at life, because this too shall be finished. And whatever physical life we're having right now will also have a stop. And so to have the ability to sit down and start conversing about things, that is very important, because if your idea is worth a grain of salt, it should be able to withstand the onslaught of other people's logic. And so you have to be able to debate your ideas.
Yeah.
But for me, the biggest thing was the freedom of my own thinking, because I obviously did have a lot of NGE. I had obviously a lot of censorship in terms of my thoughts, in terms of what I would say. And so I still remember the first few Wine and Wisdom podcasts we did. It took us 2 or 3 hours to talk about these things, because we had like 3 bottles of wine to go through. But then it would take the team something like 9 hours just to delete, just to edit, just to remove things, because I didn't want to sound a certain way and I didn't like a certain word. And I think that really was not something that I noticed then. But as time went by, that's when I realized, hold on, how much of our life do we live on censorship? And I think that Wine and Wisdom has then become a door for me to really start looking at the difference between who I am and the person I'm portraying, and seeing the breach in between. And in that respect, I think Wine and Wisdom has not saved my life, but has really opened up my mind to free living. Yeah. Freer living.
Freer. I 100% agree. It's something that I thought really deeply about as well. Whether we have 1 audience member or we have 100 audience members, the topics that we dive into are usually quite deep topics. They relate a lot to our work, but in life in general. And you coming on here, and I know we all do the same thing. You're giving your honest belief or opinion or thought about something. You're showing your character of what you truly think and believe, and whether that's agreeable to some or not, but that's the opportunity that we're taking and putting out there. And I think one thing that I thought about was, we're leaving, whether we realize it or not, this is recorded. What goes out into the social media world stays out there. It's forever available. And that's the thing, we all have children, and it's an opportunity to be our true selves and bring that to the table, and they're going to see it one day. Hopefully they see all of them and whatever, but it's giving them a snippet of our lives as well and how we think and feel about things, which is important.
I think it's been a good exercise in reevaluating that too. I think, you know, with this, the version you're seeing now couldn't be more different to the first one that TL and I put out. And I think there was some backlash early on. There was freedom of thought. Well, no, there was freedom of thought and lack, trying to not censor ourselves. But then we went back into a censorship phase based on outside influences, and the podcast changed because of that. And then we started breaking free again, and it's gone again. And there's been a couple of times, like the question is why we do Wine and Wisdom. To be completely honest, there's been a couple of stages while we've been doing it. I've actually got off and gone, why are we doing it? Because we did go too far the other direction. We weren't being ourselves. We weren't being 100% authentic in our thoughts were authentic, but the way they were portrayed and the arguments were put through. And I think more recently we're starting to go back to the good old days where we could have a good, honest debate without worrying about offending people or offending each other. I mean, there's been those times too, but so that there's been every time I hear Brene Brown, I ask why. Every time I ask, but it's funny that the pool of how society or community expects you to be is always there. And even though the people who complain the most probably don't even watch the bloody thing, right? They've just heard someone say the lunch word a couple of times or whatever, and made all their judgments based on that. But on occasion, we've reacted to that by changing. So it's a very interesting social experiment in that sense. I mean, we all here are business owners, and one of the biggest backlashes we heard was, oh, well, no one would list with you if they heard you saying that. Might be scary to think, but can you see here's the Ken that sits in someone's land room and lists their property, mate. He doesn't change. So and that's been instead of empowering other people, I think it's somehow, in some ways, that's been lost in communication as well. So it's been a very interesting social experiment.
I think that I've noticed also that our communication skill has improved. The early Wine and Wisdom were a real shit fight. It was everyone over everyone. It was like, let's just fight to make sure we have our voice heard. And now you can see that there's a lot more in terms of try to listen first, have a look. We have no problem with attacking an angle, but we're taking that time to really listen before we respond. I think that it has been a great opportunity for us to personally improve personal communication, which is the one thing that we've been trying to push onto people.
Yeah.
I think take the Zoom out of it, Thomas, and put us all back in a room. I think talking over each other will be back like that. 3 bottles of wine, 4 bottles of wine, and a heap of salami and cheese. Forget it. It'll be all over.
How good was that? Huh?
Mate, it wasn't good for the waistline or the cholesterol levels, but can I tell you, every Thursday I was asked by someone, why do you give up your day off? Because at that time I wasn't a business owner. Why do you give up your day off to go and do Wine and Wisdom? Because it's something I love doing. It's not something. It wasn't a chore. It wasn't a task. It was an enjoyment. So, and that's why I called it a personal, a self-indulgence for me. A little bit greedy, a little bit selfish. But at the end of the day, if we can help, even if we do have 1 or 2 listeners that we can help and take a little bit away, I think someone's mentioned a grain of salt. Someone can take a grain of salt away from what we're saying. Yeah, it's fantastic.
I just want to make a point there that the drive in the early days was to get to have listeners, and over time it actually disappeared from me because I thought, hold on, if we're doing it for an intrinsic reason, we will always win no matter what. And it's a funny thing. Wine and Wisdom, I mean, people should do their own thing. Don't call it Wine and Wisdom. Do your own thing, start, but have that commitment to doing it. Because when you're doing it, every single week, all 4 of us have to research a subject.
Yeah.
So how often do you see people getting into a conversation? They start arguing, but they got no idea. The idea that they have is that one line, and all that they do is to try and what is it? Protect that line. But in order to do one wizard, because we know the other three are going to attack. If your idea is not right, you're going to get attacked. And so you had to do research from every kind of angle. And I think that this gets people to really have more of a thorough approach to things, you know. And in that respect, One Wisdom has taught me a lot about try to see every single angle first before you think you have some kind of opinion.
Yeah. And I think what it's doing also, it's allowing us to see different versions of each other, but it's allowing other people to see a truer version of who we are as people. And ultimately, that only leads to better and more meaningful connections with other people. I think, you know, as they say, owning your story and living your life is the bravest thing you can do. And a lot of people hide from that. A lot of people carry shame about that or what their past might be or whatever. But, you know, we honestly get on here every week and we speak our mind, and whether, as I said before, whether 3 people agree or 2 people don't, whatever, but we're coming on here and people were respecting that and seeing a true side to us, which is, in this day and age, one of the hardest things to find is authenticity. Look at the world we're going into, you know, this AI and all the rest of it. Like, it's hard to find.
Chris, you're already an auctioneer, so you already love the sound of your own voice.
I'm Italian, mate. I love to argue.
being on show, my biggest fear in school, I failed. I was very, very good at English, except I'd fail every year because I would not do speeches. Could not get me up in front of the class. No.
And you're very articulate, so it surprises me, mate. So,
but yeah, I mean, I've since overcome that fear, and I think I've only got more comfortable with it through doing this. But for someone, Teal, I know you're used to being up on stage. You were used to being up on stage and doing those sort of things, but it was in a controlled environment. In that you knew who was sitting in front of you, so you could talk yourself into it. Has this made doing that easier? Has it made Are you less nervous getting on stage? Are you more open to talking to more strangers? I don't know, because you put yourself on here. You can't underestimate the skill we're learning by being on here. The biggest thing that stuffs up a lot of real estate agents is their fear of putting themselves where they need to be all the time in front of people. And even I forget that sometimes. I get uncomfortable in situations, but then I think if you sat back and thought, hang on, for a while it was every Thursday, I'm putting my ugly mug out to the millions of people that are watching, then everything we do in daily life should be easy. So has it opened that up for you, TL?
No, because I think I've spoken to 1,000 people. The first time that I sang in front of people, it was 1,000 people when I was 12 years old. So I've done many of these things. So there's no issue. I think that what has happened through One and Wisdom is it has allowed me to be more authentic. And I think that's the biggest thing that people regret on their deathbed. The biggest regret that people have on their deathbed is not really actually not taking enough risk. The biggest one was not to live their life by their own standards. And this is a weird thing, is most of us go through life in some kind of social hypnosis. This is what you wear. If you don't wear this and you go out for business, this is not accepted. Most of us live a life where we're being judged. Most of us go to work and work for someone else and don't even have the audacity nor the courage to go out of our cocoon, to try something, to master our destiny, to control our destiny. We just guinea pigs going around, getting our pay until we retire. And then we retire, we rely on the government to look after us if they do. And so through One and Wisdom, what I have experienced is that, first of all, that ability to like your own voice. You know, I tell you the truth, I've done public speaking for a long, long time, but you know that I've never listened to my own voice in any recording until just 2 or 3 years ago. I couldn't stand listening to my own voice. So here's the bit. So I've been doing this for many, many years. But then if someone was to put my own recording back to me, I'd run. I'd go, no, I don't want to hear this. And so wine and wisdom has allowed me to be comfortable with this, to loving this. And because if you don't love yourself first, I mean, how the hell do you get a client to love what you present? How you come across? How do you, as a person who's even trying to date somebody else, how do you get to present the best of yourself to your potential partner?
100%. No, that's really good. That's really good. I think it's an opportunity too, or I see it as an opportunity to give back in some way. I feel like, you know, I don't know who I'm giving back to, but I feel like that's what this is giving me an opportunity to do, because we take it so seriously. I know I do. We set a topic. I put a lot of time and effort. Sometimes the only time I have is 3 o'clock in the morning, but I get up and I do it, you know. And what you're saying there, Thomas, is having the courage to be yourself is sounds so easy, but it's a hard thing to do. And I heard something or read something recently that said, when you stop loving people is when you should stop leading. But if you can't love yourself and own yourself and believe in what you think and feel and what you say, it's got to start there. You know what I mean? And so in a nutshell, this is like giving back to somebody, but giving back to myself as well.
Another thing that I learned really from Wine and Wisdom is the understanding of human nature. Like, there are weeks you guys don't understand. Sitting back and watching you guys interact, I'm going, wow, because we do know each other. So and what I love the most is how I can interject one line and see a reaction, because that's when you really see a lot of internal exploration for yourself. But you also see, hold on, what he just said just hit me. Why is it hitting me? Or what he just said just got another person starting to cry. So what's in the human nature? It's a beautiful thing, because the real story of life, I think, is the mastery of human interaction. It's not about selling real estate. It's not about sales. It's not about how to become the best Formula One driver. The real story of life is how to master the art of living. How to master the art of living happens in 2 ways. My father always said, the Occident, so the person from the West looks at conquest from the outside. The person from the East looks at success as a conquest from the inside. I personally believe that you have to do both, because we still interact with outside, but also how do we give the best of ourselves to outside if we don't actually conquer and master the best of us first?
Yeah. No, it's very good.
The fact, like you said before about, you know, when you started, you're worried about what other people will think of your opinions. I think that's a lot of the reason a lot of people don't give their opinions, is because people don't understand you can like people who you don't agree with. So we all value each other's opinions here on the show, right? On the podcast. And we all have strong understanding opinions. We all have very similar values as well, though. Maybe it's a little bit different. But a part of a good discussion is having different perspectives and being able to discuss those perspectives, but walk away knowing that mine doesn't have to be yours now.
That's right.
Because that's mine, I don't have to enforce my perspective on you. I grew up in an Italian household where we would sit around a dinner table and argue our perspective. And at the end of it, we'd call each other idiots and stupid. What are you, crazy? My wife, for the first time, she sat down at the table, go, how these people still talk to each other? But at the end of it, you've broken bread, you've had a couple of glasses of wine, you walk away and it's all forgotten. That's part of a good, healthy discussion, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, maybe, but boys, I'm going, all right, we transparent, right? So nothing being held back. But a few times after the podcast, I would get a call from, or a message from Lou saying, that's it, I'm over this, don't have to do this shit anymore, right? They don't have to attack me like this anymore, right? So
that was like many moons ago. I don't do it anymore, boys.
Yesterday.
I just
It was
want to
yesterday.
I want to
Oh,
clarify. I want to clarify, Lou. When you do your research into the podcast,
yeah.
it's wine and wisdom, right? So there's research on the wine as well, right? So when you're losing the competition, I mean, you should do a little bit more research on that sort of point of view. Just saying, don't ring Thomas and complain now. Just let you know, right? Just Dan Murphy's delivers. So you got all of Dan Murphy.
So the reason I was saying it is obviously, Lou, in the early days, you must have thought that this session was also an attack on you.
Yeah. And I think going back to what Chris was just saying, I think what it boiled down to, and Thomas, we've had these discussions over the years, like many years. What I struggled with a lot was the belief in myself, I think. And this coming on here, and when I would have my opinions and you guys would disagree, it made me feel, yeah, see, you're an idiot, you're dumb, you don't. And my reaction to that was, you can get stuffed, I'm not doing it anymore. And so it's pushed me to another level. But if you don't believe in yourself, who can you believe in? You know what I mean? You take on the opinions and the thoughts and the feelings of other people. They're not really yours. So it's really helped me to get to that level where I don't ring Thomas anymore and say, they can get stuffed. I don't take it that way. I look at it and go, well, that's your belief and that's your opinion and you believe that, and that's fine. But I still believe what I believe, you know.
You know what else has changed, Lou? And this is, I think I joked about this last time or the time before. You and Chris both, like my job here is to pull your arguments apart, but because of that feeling, you actually did more research and got more around topics. So I'm being deadly serious. It was when you came on, so that you're like, dumb's a horrible word or anything like that. That's not the point. It was, there was arguments to pull apart. Now I can't even get in. So it's made like, it's easy to pretend, and I don't know if that's why Thomas brought it up or not. Chris is talking about how we can take it. We all couldn't take it at different times. We all can't take it. There's people that have come on as guests who couldn't take it, and there's people who have come on who gave as good as they got. The biggest blight we have on society at the moment is if someone says something that you disagree with.
They walk.
Oh, mate, it's worse. Like there's people losing careers over it because they dared to say something that the popular didn't agree with. So if we as four people couldn't control that, what hope is there for society? So I did a horrible job of explaining that. Well, wasn't there didn't mean it to put you down, but the arguments got better, the research got better, the detail got better, and
I got better, and that's what got better after all. You know, I had to get better.
That's the point of a mastermind group, right? That's the point of a mastermind group, is to make yourself better. So there's an old saying: if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
Sorry, boys.
I planted that. I was going to say it was the first one.
You're kidding, Hoang.
Yeah.
And a point of a mastermind group is to lift each other, to push each other to be better. And I forgot about the Einstein thing about sitting around drinking wine. I've heard that before from, during why we started it. But that makes so much sense.
But you know,
because I know I've grown from doing the podcast 100%, 200%, if that exists. But
absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, if we all sat here and agreed with each other and said what people wanted us to say, how boring. Who would watch? Nobody would care. It would be a waste of our time, our life, our energy, But that's the thing.
That on here trying to protect our careers, right? It would be boring and as fake as hell, and that's I think that's the fear people have. But that's a problem with our industry, mate. That's why we rank so poorly in everyone's bloody votes. That's why we're on a current affair as the least trusted profession recently, because we're full of people who are one thing out in public, but behind closed doors is something completely different. And that's a shame. That's
pretenders.
That's a shame. I think in some ways, I think my life would be a lot of
pretenders and lies.
Some ways, I sit there some days and after some arguments and after some complaints, Lou, and go, shit, my life would be easier if I just pretended to be someone different. But then I also sit there and go, how much self-respect would I have for myself, and how would I actually feel as I'm going to use a chauvinistic term, but how could I feel as a man if I just spent the whole time pretending, hiding my thoughts and hiding my real opinions because someone else might disagree with it. And I think, this has been another vessel for that. Life would probably be easier. We kept some of our opinions to ourselves, but who gives a shit, man?
But we've spoken a lot over the numerous topics, and it's come up once or twice. And I think I've seen nearly all three of you shed a tear in one episode or another. And I think the power of that can't be underestimated, because I think a lot of what needs to change out there in society is that men are allowed to show their feelings and they're allowed to speak their mind. And it doesn't always have to be the, oh, you're a pussy, don't cry, you don't do this, whatever, you know what I mean? Like Cam, that one that you spoke about, your friend that committed suicide that time, I think that was a topic in our office for at least a month, and a lot of people seen a different side to you then. And I think we can't underestimate the power of just one person seeing an episode like that's going through a tough time, or just a guy or somebody that just we can change one life. Well, and it's cost us an hour of our own. Like that's the power of it.
And we get to drink wine during it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but so why do we use wine?
In vino veritas.
What does that mean?
In wine, there is truth.
Because we have a problem. Because
I don't have
no, in a lot of ways, look, in a lot of ways, it's true. Well, it depends if you call it a problem. It's in wine, there is truth, but that means people have got to have something to break down a bit of a barrier to actually fully speak their mind. A lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a good block your ears very neat, but I've always thought you really find out about your staff once you get them pissed. Right? You really find out about your mates once you get them pissed. You really find out who people really are, because the wine, whatever substance it is, pulls down that barrier, and you don't have control over it after a while. So that would be my thinking behind the wine.
Yeah.
You see it here. You see it on the pod. Our first 5 minutes is always, unless we've been going for 10 minutes beforehand, our first 5 minutes is always garbage.
Right.
Yeah.
Our first 5 minutes is rubbish because we haven't had a couple of listeners. I get home, don't tell Thomas, but I start at 9 a.m, so I'm ready for the podcast. I just occasionally write stuff in WhatsApp so it looks like I'm.
that leads to a good podcast, though. That leads to people, having that little bit more freedom of speech, a little bit more inhibition, the removal of that inhibition, but still to a point where you're still constrained to say, well, you're not going to really overstep the mark and make a total dick of yourself, so to speak. Can I ask you guys this? Can I ask you, so especially to Cam and to Thomas, because, and no offense, Lou, but I just want to know the evolution of wine and wisdom. We've gone through a few different sort of framework of wine and wisdom, from when we were speaking about someone and specific person. We've had a few guests. What from those, do you think there's things that we should be reintroducing, or new things that you might, and Lou, that you might have something on that?
Not book club. Jordan Peterson broke me. Jordan Peterson trying to comprehend what
that was painful. That was painful.
I think getting the guest on every now and then is a good thing. Like, I really took a lot from your mate the other week or the other month, whenever that was. And the podcast that we did with Maddie, I think that was probably one of our best podcasts as well. Yeah, I think if we can continue to do that would be good.
I think we need to go to more wineries.
I didn't make the winery that you guys went to, unfortunately. I didn't make that podcast, but that was a good podcast. We did talk about going to WA, didn't we? Or South Australia?
Yes. Well, we still, it's still there. We're still alive. For me, I think that the wine is very much more an internal journey. Sure, especially at the beginning of our podcast, it was so noisy by the time we finished one or two glasses. But what is interesting now is to see how much you yourself are in your true self after 1 or 2 glasses.
Mm.
And because I truly now have come to understanding that the difference between the self that you start with and the self that you finish by the time you finish the bottle may only be related to the amount of NGE and censorship you put upon yourself. And so when you really understand that, and you can now bridge the two without the use of a substance, then maybe you get to this next level in life, you know?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like most of
Yeah.
us, listen, you go to every party, right? Cam comes to my place, does not plunge into the pool until he's done 3 or 4 bottles. But what if Cam came to my place and plunged in the pool first?
Mm.
About to say, the only difference between sober Cam and drunk Cam is clothes, mate. That's the only difference. I don't know what that's about a past life, but I must have wanted to be naked because every time.
So I think when I really came to that understanding that, hold on, look at people when they sober, look at people when they pissed, because it tells you the NGE level in them.
Yeah.
You can analyze it. It's a beautiful thing, because that understanding of that person allows you to understand a lot of more people, because really in the end, people are only categorized into a few groups. Once you're really starting to see a few groups, you're starting to see a lot of people.
Yeah. Mm.
That's why I would never stop the wine. I think that at one stage we were thinking of maybe water and wisdom, but that didn't work. I mean, there's no, there's no such thing as wisdom in water.
You got my resignation letter and thought,
Dan, you've been there from the beginning, mate. The evolution's changed a fair bit. Yes, book club, that was very painful at times. And I must say that's probably the only time I felt wine and wisdom was a burden, where like you really had it was like weekly, I know, a chapter, and it was a bit of a burden. That was a bit of a burden. But
no, but it wasn't
is there anything else?
that. Remember, it was a chapter of a book, and we had to study a person. That's when we were doing people as well.
That was the study of people.
But I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed. My favourite times are when I love the philosophical topics, when we can have a real debate over something. Like I was like most of us, I think I was really enjoying the podcast with your mate Chris, because I had some differences of opinion, but we could actually talk intellectually about them. The biggest thing I struggle with in the real world is trying to have an intellectual argument with people. It turns into name calling and brick throwing. But I also I really enjoyed doing the new stuff. I really enjoyed, like I can tell everyone's over it when I mentioned Dan Andrews before, but I try and be a bit of a student of what's going on in the world, just for knowledge sake. And I liked when we were doing that. I did, but people weren't. Again, it was one of them things where I think we were in our listener chasing phase then, TL, as you put it, and we were trying to work out how to get more people to listen, and then we stopped doing it because people weren't connecting with it. But that's, I love that stuff, and there's no denying it. The reason I rip into Brene Brown so much, Lou, is because I think I've got no issue with it, truth be told. Truth be told, but I think we've got to have more sources than one, right? I think all our arguments can't come from one book or one philosophy. We've got to expand our mind. As long as we're doing that, I'm okay. I hate it when we censor all. I understand I say the F word too much, but I hate it when we censor the swearing. I hated it because it's an authentic part of me, who I am. That's just being real. Like I don't swear to be offensive or swear to be.
Can I ask you this, Cam? You say it's an authentic part of yourself, and like we all know it is. But in a listing appointment, would you swear?
Yep.
Okay.
Depending on the situation, depending on if I'm in a lounge room with a swear, I'm not swearing. Oh, look, it's situation dependent. But
it's very environmental. So depending on the person.
I have and I do, and I know I saw Thomas's look then. I know it's not what people want to hear, but that's what we're talking about, right? And apart from, I wish more people embrace not so much the swearing, but embraced in a listing appointment who they actually are, right? Because you know, I've hired some bloody beautiful people and some great humans, and I sit there and go, you could list people because of who you are, and then they put a jacket on and turn into someone completely different. So if me connecting with myself is by the odd swear word, look, it works, right? So
I'll bore you with a quick story. I had a listing appointment the other day.
Shaking his head.
Lady was 68, and she used the F-bomb more than I've ever used it. And it was overlooking the water in Bonnet Bay, and a beautiful lady, and yeah, used the F-bomb more than I've ever heard anyone, like probably a sailor. I mean, it was fantastic.
I listed an 87-year-old. I listed an 87-year-old man this afternoon, and I got out of the car and I sold his house. He was one of my first ever clients. Now his wife's died, and they called me up yesterday and said, and I got out of my car and he went, Cam, and I'm quoting, so there's no lunch. He goes, fuck, it's good to see you. And he's an 87-year-old man, and he's this big, and
yeah, that's good, mate.
You know, so it's not, I'm not saying go in and swear, but see, here's the thing. I'm not saying go in and swear, because if it's not you, it's not you. Right?
Yeah.
I learned to swear in a rugby league dressing shed. My mates, when I was 11 years old, used to tell me I swore too much, and that's how much I used to swear. But it's an adjective. It's like saying and or it for me. It's a anyway, interesting.
Can I ask you guys this? Can I ask you?
You're too scared to say it now because of lunch.
Can I ask you this? Is there? I mean, we do this, and we've discussed about, you know, getting in and having good conversations about things and so forth. And do you do this in any other sort of format, genre, any with other people? Do you have that sit down and shoot the shit, or just talk about, you know, current affairs? Do you do it at all outside of Wine and Wisdom?
I've probably got two people in my life I can have and I'm going to offend a lot of people. There's two people in my life I feel like I can have a semi-intelligent conversation around philosophical matters. One of them's already here. And the other one's my good mate Gaz, who's a fair bit older than me, but we can actually sit in a pub surrounded by everyday folk and talk about, you know, philosophical matters. So the short answer is, for me, no. And that's one of the first things I said. The great thing about this was I actually got to do something other than fart jokes and you know, talk crap. But don't get me wrong, and I've got plenty of people around. If I just want to talk absolute garbage, I'm surrounded by people. I can do it all day long. But
I found what eventually happened. You know, I'd come out of Wine and Wisdom, and whatever topic we would be discussing, we would then discuss that for another hour or so after. And
he told you were wrong.
Pardon? Yeah, oh, don't worry. Sometimes he does. Sometimes he will message me through a podcast and he will say, Cam's right. Cam's right. And I just look at my phone and go,
Cam's sending him the podcast to send you. Sorry, sending him the message to send you. I just want to let you know.
But yeah, I know. I think there is only a handful of people that you can sit and have those deep and meaningful conversations with. But I found from doing this, it would generally lead to more conversations that you wouldn't normally have with certain people, I suppose, you know, like people would watch. And I found a lot it was the people at work, you know. We have a lot of closet listeners you don't know that they're on because they're not watching live, but then they go on and watch, and I'd go to work and they'd go, so what was that really about? And I'd go, really, you actually, you know what I mean? So it stemmed to a lot of other conversations that, and I guess what it did is it opened my eyes to other people and their hunger to learn more and desire to want to know more. And yeah, it's good.
I mean, one of the things that Socrates was very well known for was to be able to roam around the street of Athens. And all he would do, he was not a man who knew science. He was not a man who understood philosophy, but he would only ask them one single question. He'd say to them, how do you know you're living a good life? How do you know that you're a good person? And then he let them talk. And I think that that's what we're doing. And this is why I don't do this for numbers and who listens. It's every now and then. I mean, sure, people like surprise me with like, oh man, I heard this or I heard that. And I'm going, no, you hear whatever you're ready for. I think that Wine and Wisdom has now become more of a selfish journey for me. It is, what is it that I'm hearing? What is it I now know here about me that I didn't know 2 or 3 years ago? So for sure, I think that the salami and the sausages and the ham and all of these things would have done probably a better job. But the since COVID, we've been separated like this. And so we have to look at different things. But let me start with the closing so you guys can close and think about maybe what is the one thing that you can advise people in regards to Wine and Wisdom. And for me to start, I'd like to just say that, you know, people who are listening to us are either in sales or in different avenues of life. But life is not about a mastery of a skill. Becoming the best property manager, becoming the best sales assistant is not going to make your life better. Becoming a great salesperson is not going to really be fulfilling. I think that people need to remember there are 3 things in life. It's skill, mindset, and self. And I truly believe that unless you grow in the mindset and the self, you're never going to be a complete person. And from my own experience, Wine and Wisdom has been the vehicle that has helped me enhance the mindset and the self to such an extent that without having even to work on the skill, my life has got way more meaning. And my life has got probably way more meaning to myself, because in the end, we're all going to go. And how we live and what we pass on to other people is going to be a direct is a direct result from the person we become through our work, through our life, the way we do our job, not through the financial return from our job.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Big dog.
I'll just say, my thing is I get, I don't know, I'm not on Facebook much or Instagram much, but God, there's a lot of ads out and a lot of things out about this board game to help people have conversations, and that board game where you pick a card and here's a topic to talk about. There must be $1 billion industry out there in getting people to have conversations with each other about stuff that we should just be able to sit down and talk about on an everyday basis. So if nothing else, like we've just spoken about, this gives us the opportunity to do it, somewhat forces us to do it. And as you said, Lou, the offshoot of that's been you probably have more deeper conversations with Steve that never would have happened on some level. I'm sure you have much deeper conversations about other stuff. But if nothing else, the tolerance for other people's opinions and the ability to have a conversation that doesn't involve kids, work, or what do we talk about all day? Kids and work. My kids ignore each other inside. As soon as I get off here, I'm going back to that. So finding out.
But I'm sorry, before you finish, do not follow Lou's example. The last conversation I had, she had a head reconstruction. He's having face reconstruction right now.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Find a way to have something other than fart jokes in your life, and don't be afraid of sharing your opinion, because the people who don't like it don't matter, and the people who will actually listen to you might have found a different circle in life. So there you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. I just put it simply, you are the sum of the people that you hang around, and those conversations that you discuss with them need to be deeper. They need to be thoughtful conversations, a lot off the back of what Cam said. Find people of value, ask them their opinion, spend time with them, take them to dinner, maybe start a wine club where you get together once a month and, 4 or 5 of you bring a bottle of wine together. I'll tell you now, you will get way more out of it than you put in. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
I like it.
Very good. I think listening to everything that we've said, what I think it boils down to for me, many years ago when I started in real estate, I felt like an imposter, and I think we've all sort of felt like that somewhere in our lives at some point. And it drove me to the point of just wanting to throw the towel in and live the life that I knew, which was the not so good life. But I think what it came down to was Thomas's constant belief in me. He's seen something in me that I couldn't see. And I think when you have somebody like that that can allow you to see something in yourself, you feel obliged to live a better life and to do something with it. And I think stretching ourselves, putting ourselves on here and showing a true version of ourselves, we're allowing other people we're giving them the opportunity and the permission to also do that, because it only takes one little bit of belief, that's whether you have it in yourself or somebody gives that to you, that starts you on your journey, and then the world is your oyster after that. But you've got to find it in yourself, or have somebody that helps you find it, and I think getting on here and doing that, maybe we're doing that for other people too.
Nice.
Mm.
I would say this also, anyone who's listening or listens in the closet, as we put it,
Yeah.
If you guys have got a suggestion with a topic, or if you would like yourself to come on and discuss your journey, you may have a story that we don't know about. Let us know, because we would love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your input. But a lot of people they're just, I don't know if it's afraid or what it is. Just give us that text message.
All that stuff we spoke about, we do know what it is, mate. It's all that stuff we've been speaking about for an hour. So,
Exactly.
Well, listen, One Wisdom has allowed me to do a lot of things, all right? And I just want to let you know, I know that you guys have been very polite, but I just come back from Belgium where I lost my father, and I had to go back to Belgium and bury him. And so One Wisdom has allowed me to really be very open with those feelings, to be able to go through a relationship that was, as you do know, a very tumultuous with Dad, and got to a level where I have stopped judging Dad, but started admiring the beauty in Dad. Very hard to do, but I still managed to do it. And when you do this, then you really get to see the person in life in a very different light, because we all have a master's degree in judging people. And quite often it is so much more important to spend the lifetime that we have around them while they're alive than try to live through the regrets and maybe we should have done better. I think if it wasn't for One Wisdom, I don't think that I would have lived this episode as nicely as I have done. Again, it's very early, because obviously for a week I've been around Mum, making sure that she's not missing the absence, because the person who's gone, that's one thing. The person who's left, it's always the person who carries the pain. But the result of One Wisdom is that I already am receiving this gift. Sure, there are moments of pain, there are moments of emptiness, but you make it more bearable. I think that you also make the NGE disappear in the background. And so I think to end this podcast, I just wanted to say to you this: if you have a mom and dad, make sure your mom and dad knows about you while you're around, while they're around, that it is possible for us to put a lot of things aside, because those things that they take to their graveyard without us putting aside are the things that will hold us back for the rest of our journey. All right, so I really thank all three of you guys, because I don't think that without the journey with the three of you, I would have probably enjoyed the passing of Dad, who's lived a bloody good weekend, and to be able to send him to the next part of his journey the way I did. Thank you so much for today.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, mate.
See you
you
guys.
guys.
Bye.
Next week.
Love you too. Let's go.
See ya.
Bye.